Welcome to the Power Up Podcast, your source for the latest tech insights in electric utility design and the energy industry at large.
I'm Corey Burns, a licensed civil engineer with a deep background in structural engineering and engineering technology implementation for the utility industry.
And I'm Trevor Scullion, a tech entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience creating solutions that power the future of engineering and technology.
On this show, we'll explore how emerging technologies, evolving standards, and smarter systems are reshaping the way we think about designing and modeling our energy infrastructure, as well as the broader energy landscape.
From AI and digital twins to design automation, right through to the business of energy, we dive into the trends driving innovation in this critical space at this critical time.
And we're not afraid to ask the tough questions or challenge a few old assumptions along the way.
So plug in and power up.
So today we've got Shrirang with us, who's going to be talking about a little bit about his experience with ChatGrid. He's recently shifted over from PNNL over to ERCOT in a really extraordinary shift for his career as well as just the industry as a whole. He's going to be talking to us about all things AI, ChatGrid, and his experience moving the industry forward as it moves to a more intelligent and grid-centric industry. Shrirang, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. First off, Corey and Trevor, once again, thank you for this invitation. I've been following the podcast as well as following Trevor's work on LLM, so really excited to talk with you guys. So my name is Shrirang Abhyankar. I go by the name Shri, so feel free to call me that. So I am, I'm basically a power grid, primarily a researcher. And so I've been in this space for about 15 plus-ish or so years. Mostly I've worked in the DOE National Lab space, working at two different national labs, starting at Argonne National Lab first, and then moving to Pacific Northwest National Labs. And then recently, I've moved, recently as in the last 2 weeks, I've moved to the Energy Reliability Council of Texas. So my work is primarily kind of at this intersection of grid modeling and simulation, mathematics, computing, and AI. So I like to work in this space, and that this work has been kind of organically formed based on the training that I've received over the years. I have my core training is in power grid modeling and simulation. That was what my graduate studies were in. And when I was doing my graduate studies, I also got this incredible opportunity to work with the Mathematics and Computer Science Division at Argonne National Lab. And the folks at Mathematics and Computer Science Division, or MCS, they have a high-performance computing library called PETSI, which is Portable Extensible Toolkit for Scientific Computing. And what PETSI is basically, it is a numerical library that can run on large clusters or parallel computers. The Department of Energy National Laboratory Space, is fortunate to have supercomputers at their disposal wherein they can run these extremely large problems. But in order to run these problems, you need these numerical methods that can scale up to the size of that supercomputer, and that's where PETSI comes in, because it provides those bare bones, or your numerical methods, your linear solvers, matrices, nonlinear solvers, and so on. And so it provides this numerical computing engine. So it's kind of this computing plus mathematics. And so I was really fortunate early on in my career to work with the PETSI team, to learn from them how large scale software is developed, be it high performance computing, be it trying to optimize the numerical kernels, and so on. And then I took that over to my power grid modeling and simulation work, wherein I applied for large scale problems, be it optimization, be it steady state power flow or dynamics. And try to run the problem on small machines, but as well as very large supercomputers. In fact, the precursor for ChatGrid was a project basically we ran this very large scale optimization model. We have a tool which is available open source on GitHub called ExaGO. And ExaGO is basically this grid optimization library that is capable of running these very large scale optimization problems on, not only just your desktop machines, but all the way to the supercomputers. And so got experience in running that. And I work a lot on open source software as well. So ExaGO, ChatGrid, GridPack, contributions to other software like Mac Power, GridLabD, and so on. So I really like the open source software culture, wherein it kind of empowers you to just look at what other people are doing and learn from that. And then so from Argonne, I moved to PNNL in 2019, and then worked on a bunch of different projects. And then ChatGrid, which we'll probably talk later on. And right now I'm I made the move to ERCOT to work in the industry. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were, it was early inspiration for me when I saw ChatGrid because it was one of the first times I'd seen it, put to use, right? It was so early for us with large language models. So it really was the intro for me to really start kicking into what we did with kind of our subs GPT was, related to that. And it was, could we do it for substations? Could we make it intelligent enough that we could, interact with a substation model and layers of data and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, yours was the early inspiration for us.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was, I've kind of, always, I always go with this mantra of how can I make my life simple and trying to
Right.
figure out, solutions for that. And so it just happened that ChatGPT was just evolving, and it was, like there was a lot of hype about it. And so that's when we just started experimenting with it and seeing, hey, can this make our life simple when we are doing analysis? And it just happened that it did. So yeah, that's how the story goes.
Oh, that's awesome. I saw one of your posts too on the Frontier, whatever the supercomputer is. So for those of us imagining this that haven't had access to it, what's it like to see your code run on a supercomputer?
So it's, that's the culmination that your code is running on the supercomputer when you are,
Okay.
slowly scaling it up. But there is a lot of, lot of process that goes before that,
Hmm.
installing the code, making sure that it runs on smaller problems. And,
Wow.
and, it was a, it was a very dedicated team effort from,
Hmm.
I was in charge of the modeling, the tool ExaGO. There were folks
Okay.
who were designing these algorithms on the GPU. There were folks who
Right, right.
were working on these math algorithms. And finally, there were people who were at Oak Ridge National Lab trying to install our software on their machines. And these machines had have AMD architecture, which was relatively new compared to NVIDIA.
Right.
And so there were certain challenges when it came to the libraries not being stable and so on. So it took a bit of time for us to get it to run, but then when it finally ran and when we got our logs out and everything, it was like, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, just awesome, awesome project to be involved in for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shrirang, for a lot of our listeners who might not be familiar, do me a favor and just walk through what ChatGrid is and kind of some of your work there. And nice and simple, just explain it to me, because even I'm just like, wow, what a really unique, cool tool, and just some of the stuff that you were looking to maybe resolve with developing ChatGrid.
Yep. So ChatGrid is, basically, I would sum it as, kind of a ChatGPT powered visualization. And what it does is it allows one to query questions or, ask questions in a natural language about, your grid. And so the grid, to different people, the grid is, means different thing. For example, for markets, it is, what are the prices. For people who are looking at reliability, it is what are the voltages, currents, and so on. And so for operations folks also, what is the, different demands as well as the generation on different nodes of the grid. And so what ChatGrid was trying to do was, you have all this information, and typically as operators, you visualize the grid and you have this information coming. But then in order to retrieve that information, you usually have this graphical user interface wherein if you want to look at, hey, what is my, how is my wind generation currently looking like? So then what you need to do is you need to, just pick all the wind generators, drop down, and then, that will show you the wind generation. And so we were, as I mentioned, we were running these large scale simulations, which would produce these, voltages, currents, the generating power, loads, and so on. And we were creating a visualization for that, which is, basically a network or a map-based visualization of the grid, what you see in ChatGrid. And what we came across was, as and when we wanted to ask more questions, we had to add that feature, meaning that I had to write a code at the back end to enable that feature. But then as grid researchers, we want to understand these different patterns. There may be some patterns that you want to explore, but then that tool does not enable you to see that because it's not implemented. Right. And so what we decided to do then was let's try to have, instead of what is the graphical user interface, which is the current technology, how about we move to a query-based user interface, wherein, a QUI, wherein you will ask the question, it will communicate with your backend data. So there is no middleman over here, which will drop downs or whatnot. You ask the question, right. It will communicate with your data. It will figure out, what data needs to be extracted and so on, and then provide you back with the answer. And then with, that's the model for ChatGPT as well. You ask a data, it has a, it has a corpus of data, it will give you back the answer. But when it comes to power grid or any sort of a network, just having that tabular data, that information is not enough, because when you're operating a network, you want to look at the geography of the network. You want to see how the flows are going from east to west, or how a certain generation pattern is evolving. So you really need to have that the map-based visualization as well. And so what ChatGrid does is it takes that information that is retrieved from your data and then publishes on the map, so that you can see exactly what that data is and where it is located. And so that was the kind of the that's what basically ChatGrid is. It eases that, it provides that flexibility to ask the questions and not being limited by what the vendor has implemented in the tool. So that's how I see it.
So did ChatGrid lead to, what was it, Grid coPilot? I saw something on there too. Was that, so did it evolve, or is it two different things that you were?
Yeah, so ChatGrid was primarily for the operations realm. And then as we were talking with different people at the lab, what we realized is, there are different use cases. So one of the use cases was for planning, wherein people are trying to study, the projections for next 5 years or 10 years. And what they typically do is they run these production cost modeling simulations, wherein they have these projections, and they run these simulations at an hourly interval for an entire year. And so you can imagine running the grid for, forecasting what is going to happen on the grid for the, after 5 years, for the next whole year. And that leads to a lot of data. In our case, it was anywhere between 2 gigabytes to 4 gigabytes of data per scenario. And so they, not only just one scenario, but they want to also see, what if the load changes by this much? What if there is a new EV technology coming in? Or, what if there is a new data center coming in? So there are these different scenarios. And so what we tried to do over there was apply the same concepts of ChatGrid, is, query your data, whatever you have, through a front end, and it will communicate with your backend data, which was your scenario data and whatnot, and produce that visual answer. With this, we also went one step ahead, because we also wanted to produce graphs. So not only you get that map-based visualization, but you also get graphs. But we, when you're looking at different types of data, you want to have different. I mean, what I'm getting to is there are different visualizations that are suitable for showing different kinds of data. Pie chart is good for certain kind of data versus bar chart versus something. So depending on that question, then you need to decide what kind of visualization that you have. And then what we also did was, there is another library, I believe it's called NL2Viz. And what it does is it's basically takes in your data, and then it says, okay, for this data, I think the bar chart would be better. And so then it creates that bar chart. So that was an extra level of addition that we went with that. So the use case was different, which was long-term planning. and then
Right.
coming up with that. In fact, my my colleagues at PNNL are now using that for extreme weather analysis, and it's the same concept, but trying to use it for extreme weather analysis and so on.
Oh, wow. They must be sad to see you going to Texas.
Yes, I think so. I'm as well. I mean, it was a bit of, but,
that was a very humble. I think so. I love that.
That was very humble.
And likewise for me as well, because I've worked in the lab space for 15 years, and it's
Yeah.
incredible experience working with so many different people. And I think the lab experience was very liberating because it allows you to work with people from different domains. So I was working with computer scientists, mathematicians, earth system scientists, and there's just so much to learn over there. So yeah, that experience was very empowering.
Yeah.
I got to
So what's
say,
going to be?
if we're going to do superlatives, you might be the most intelligent individual we've had on the podcast for sure. It's you are definitely the smartest. And for all the visual learners out there, while we're on the topic of just kind of talking about this, I want to share my screen here because there's a really good video that PNNL has put forth that shows just kind of what ChatGrid is capable of and what it does. And Shrirang really just walked through that with us. But by and large, you can kind of see in this video that's on YouTube, it's a quick 1.5 minute video that shows you how you can query ChatGrid, ask it questions, and visually see in frankly stunning detail, exceptional levels of information transfer, both line thicknesses, visualization, colorization. This is incredible work.
Yeah, this was the inspiration that really got us fired up, and it was pretty early on. Like you said, all the hype of AI when ChatGPT hit, it was like this was the first time we saw a real example of it being used on the grid, right? Where it wasn't just a demo, it wasn't like a high level marketing video. It was true data being used. So yeah, this is very inspirational work. So maybe
I really appreciate that.
yeah. So maybe talk about, I know you got something going on with IEEE, right? You have a committee that you do webinars with?
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. So we've started a new task force. This is through the IEEE Power and Energy Society Task Force. And since working with ChatGrid, I also realized that there are so many people who are interested in this topic. And there are so many people who are experimenting with foundational models and LLMs and trying to come up with use cases for that. So me and a bunch of other colleagues thought that it would be a good idea to have a platform for knowledge exchange on LLMs, wherein researchers can talk about the technology that they are developing. We can get together people from the industry, research, LLM vendors, and so on, and really provide a platform by which they can exchange this knowledge. And so as a part of that, this PES task force, we have, our one of the main things that we do is there's a meeting called IEEE Power and Energy Society General Meeting. So that's
Right.
once a year. It was it was in July this year, and so we had a panel session over there. We had folks from NERC. We had a couple of vendors, AWS, ETAP, a couple of research labs. And it was, basically talking about or sharing their experiences on developing the LLM products, plus, from the NERC point of view, what are the, where do they see in terms of governance, in terms of data security. NERC has released a report on AI where they are highlighting different use cases of AI, what are the challenges, and their view on that as well. So the task force kind of provides that platform. Going forward, we are planning to have from October, and we are just planning that from October we plan to have monthly webinars where we'll invite folks from the research side, folks who develop the LLM models, as well as the vendors, in order to just talk about the work that they're doing. And then, we have a YouTube channel where all these recordings will be posted for
Ah,
posterity. And yeah, I think our mission is to, kind of promote and exchange knowledge on LLMs, because there is a lot of potential for LLMs. But in order to make it work for the power grid industry, it has to work accurately and reliably. And so
yes.
we want to, like, I think it's relatively easy to put up a demo, but then to work it at the accuracy level and the reliability level that the power grid industry requires, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I mean, we did it. So we did a lot of ours like agentic AI. We had a couple of different agents, right? And we had to
Yeah,
log all of the reasoning that goes on between
right.
them to see how they came to these conclusions. Because there was sometimes, they would just go off the rails and, and just
Yeah,
give you some oddball answer, right? So yeah, digging through the log files and trying to fine tune them was a lot of
yeah.
work for sure. Yeah, awesome.
Well, Shri
So what's
Ram,
it? Well,
no,
go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
No, no, go ahead, man.
I was going to say you touched on, I think, one of the biggest ones, and Trevor knows this probably more than I do. Security, data security, infrastructure security. That is very often, and sometimes more often than not, one of the biggest roadblocks to not just AI implementation, but even just design technology implementation. Data transfer, all that good stuff. When you guys were creating ChatGrid, and even as you move beyond ChatGrid into implementing AI in a more broader scale sense, what has been the mechanisms that for ChatGrid specifically were able to get past some of those security challenges, those data security challenges and information security challenges? And what do you see moving forward, the mechanism by which we can maybe not necessarily shed this issue, but have a consistent mechanism by which we can move away from or get around the security challenges associated with kind of data in the grid?
Yeah, so from ChatGrid side, from very very early on, from it's in its design stage, we were very clear that if something like this has to be used in the industry, then it cannot share the data with the LLM provider. So what we were doing was we were using the OpenAI API, and so that means that you need to send the data to the OpenAI servers, and then it will give you back an answer. So at the inception of ChatGrid, we were pretty clear that if we have to make this solution workable, then we cannot share any specific data with OpenAI, and so we had to figure out how to go around that. The other thing is that we were working with numbers. So these are, voltages, currents, and, generation. So these are numbers. And you can't train LLMs are good with words or text, but they're not good with numbers, because then you need to quantize the numbers and so on. Anyways, but we could not, you cannot train a model with numbers. So that was number two. So then we had to figure out a way, how can we take advantage of ChatGPT without sending them the data? So that was the real research question that was that came in, and so we looked at like ChatGPT is good in creating a code based on your answer. So our thought was, hey, why not ask ChatGPT to turn that query into code that we'll run locally on our on our database, and it will provide back that answer. And so what we would provide to ChatGPT is just some generic metadata. Based on that, it would run the code. So no data, all the data sits in-house. There is no data that is shared with ChatGPT. It's just the generic metadata that gets shared. And so that was kind of the thought process. And doing that, it kind of isolates your local data from ChatGPT. Now there are other models wherein you can have an in-house, people are working on in-house having that LLM service in-house. And so that means that you have that LLM in-house, the data just stays in the facility itself. So there are people who are looking at that model. There are people looking at sort of a hybrid wherein you can have the LLM in-house, but then for some other queries you can have outside as well. And the data security questions, I think this is it's not just with the foundational models, but because it touches on cloud computing, it touches on cybersecurity. So I think as an industry, we need to figure out how to come up with solutions that are super secure, as well as allow us to use these tools. So I see, it's just, I think there has to be, once we kind of figure out the solutions for this, from a cloud computing point of view, as well as from a cybersecurity point of view, I think that's when, we can start using these tools more and more. There are, in Power Grid, there are different processes as well. So there is operations versus planning. So operations, you are operating the grid in real time. So maybe that, operations is a little more here and now and riskier compared to, long-term planning and so on. So we need to think about, which processes can we use the LLM for that are okay, that do not impact the grid, versus, super riskier processes that are not ready yet. And it's an evolving thing, and I think it will take a little bit of time to evolve. I think the technology is maybe almost there, but then when you come to these different processes, it will take a little bit of time to roll them out.
Yeah, I agree too. And so we ran a project with Olama locally, and then some open source models, right? But even that's a challenge, right? You got open source models, like who's controlling them, who's contributing to them, right? We let us down this whole path of how do we verify this stuff that's coming in, right? So,
yeah. And that's another, like explainability of the model itself. That's that's another challenge. We are so much used to physics equations and math equations that suddenly if you don't have an equation, like, okay, what is going on?
The black box answer. I always love ChatGPT. Never says it doesn't know. It just yeah, certainly, even when it's making stuff up, it's like it never doesn't know the answer.
Always so positive. It's a compliment every single time. It's the worst idea in the world. Great idea. Let's roll with
it. That's a great idea.
So that's amazing. And the security side of things is one aspect of this. The other side, and I think you've really kind of touched on it a little bit already, but I want to hear a little bit more of your perspective with regards to hallucinations and reliability. Because I know Trevor knows that more than anything. And like you said, he's gone through previous experiments where they created agents, and they can sometimes just go off the rails. So something like ChatGrid, how do you know? How can you rely? How can I go to ChatGrid and know that I can reliably ask it a question, whatever it queries, it's coming back to me with reliable information, and move that further down the rails of just kind of what that looks like for future tools for people to potentially implement, say like ERCOT to implement.
Yep. No, that's a great question, and it comes back to I think summing it up, it's like, is your tool trustworthy? And like for being trustworthy, you need it to be highly accurate and reliable, consistent over a period of time. And so with ChatGrid, one of the things that we what we came across was that it would work for certain queries, that it would not work for others. And so what we decided to do, and I want to give a big shout out to the intern who worked with me over here, Sichen Jin. She's a PhD student at Georgia Tech. Incredible, she was amazing, and she kind of spearheaded a lot of this work. And so what we decided to do was create these different categories of questions. There can be negation, there can be logical questions, and when people ask questions, they come in different categories. Right now, I think with ChatGrid, our effort was for data extraction and maybe minimal analysis. But then if you have a loaded question, like, based on the data that you have, is my system secure, or is my system stable? Right? That's a high level question, and you need to break it down into smaller questions and so on. So it does not yet have that capability. Maybe with the reasoning models, maybe it can do that. Right. So there are these different types of questions. So what our, small effort was to categorize these different questions and try to see which category it is answering consistently well and which categories it is not. And then, try to figure out how can we improve the answers for the categories that are not. And so for that, we experimented with different input formats for the data. Of course, changing the prompts and so on. But I think it's a, I strongly feel that as we develop these applications, not only do we need to develop applications, but we need to have a test questionnaire and a broader set of test questionnaire that we can always use for testing, and we just keep on expanding that. There can be certain things that can be just cached because there are those typical answers. There are certain things, maybe like have a reinforcement learning or something and try to improve that answer. And I think that's the the biggest, not the biggest hurdle, but like the research question is now, how can we get these systems to be like 95% or 99% accurate for most of the questions, for the different categories of questions. And then unless and until we introduce these different categories of questions to and have different users, that's another thing, right? Because so different users, different categories of questions, and try to see, try to understand based on that and try to develop solutions based on that.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, reinforcement learning that's been the only thing I've been able to get it closer.
Yeah.
Right. To actually have an engineer refine and just keep fine tuning as they go. And it doesn't like the answer, they can continue to fine tune. And we're doing some dynamic line ratings and things that they can correct it, right? Because if they can't correct it, it's never going to get there. There's just too much knowledge that could be shared, right? So catching the engineers before they all retire is the ultimate right now. Every time I talk to some older engineer, he's always going to, well, I retire in 2 years, right? Like, man, we got to get this working quick. What else you got, Corey? You got any more zingers on there? You got the best questions there.
Do I ever? I've got loads of questions for you, Shrirang. So let's keep going here, because I think ChatGrid is really unique for a lot of different reasons, but one in particular, intermittent energy is certainly it can be a hot button topic for sure, politically and all those things. But one of the things that I think opponents about whether it be renewables or any kind of intermittent energy come forward, it introduces grid complexity that is extremely challenging to analyze and manage more than anything. How do you foresee tools like ChatGrid and even just further implementation of AI tools in the space of grid management and grid planning? How do you foresee that helping facilitate and address some of the concerns associated with intermittent energy sources?
Yeah, so I think with intermittent sources or any sources that have certain level of uncertainty, the planning and operation becomes complex. The reason being that now suddenly you don't have a deterministic forecast as such, but you need to account for these different scenarios of or what if conditions. And right now, even when I speak with different folks, they run different scenarios, but then they always say that they can run more number of scenarios, but they are kind of limited by compute power or by labor. And so my view on this is that I think with AI and ChatGrid, it will help expedite or help accelerate or reduce or increase productivity or reduce time for the different processes that are involved in doing these studies. So for renewable energy integration, like there are typically three processes that I see. One is you need to generate the scenarios, the different types of scenarios that come in. The second thing is you need to run these tools to simulate the impact of these scenarios. And the third is you need to analyze, what is the impact of these scenarios. So previously I was talking about Grid coPilot, and they were running these simulations trying to see what is the impact on the grid for 2040 or something. And so with AI now, I think you can partly or fully automate these different processes. For example, you can have AI generate the scenarios based on your certain requirements that you have in a specific format according to how you want it. So it will provide you that automation of those scenarios. Then when it comes to the simulation tool, I don't think that can be replaced by AI yet, because we have these physics-based tools that are vetted, that are validated by the industry, and that are familiar with a lot of engineers. So those are definitely going to be in, but you can orchestrate simulating these tools, right? Just have a script that will run these tools, and then the last part is the analysis of it. Once these tools develop, like generate all that data, you can have AI to then comb through that data, try to figure out what is needed. And then the last part is on report generation. And we've seen already with LLMs that they can generate reports in your Word format or your like PDF format and so on. So you have these different processes that can be automated. And then you have on top of that this agentic AI, which can basically orchestrate this entire workflow, going from your your scenario generation to running the tool to analyzing and to creating the report, right? So now you have basically more hands on deck to run more scenarios. And that's how I kind of see it, is like AI is kind of empowering that extra set of analysis or that extra set of simulations that you can run, because it is reducing the time for all these different processes. And that's the more the uncertainty grows, I think that's you definitely need more scenarios and more hands on deck.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's the same, on the things we're doing with Substage. It wasn't to replace any engineering folks on the on the workflow. It was really augmenting the work and giving them more options to go through the scenarios quicker, to try different things, try some new things, right? Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a push and take from the LLMs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So for everybody that's kind of our listeners and watching, for ChatGrid, if they want to go and try out ChatGrid, from my understanding, they can go do so, right? It's on GitHub, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So they can go on GitHub. They can search for a library called ExaGO. ChatGrid is a part of ExaGO, though you can just independently use ChatGrid as well. What we decided to do was just keep it in the ExaGO repository. So if you look for search for ExaGO, you can find ChatGrid over there. You'll have instructions on downloading as well as installing, and then we have some synthetically created data sets that you can try to use. It works with OpenAI, ChatGPT, so you need a subscription to the OpenAI API. But other than that, everything, all the dependencies and everything, it's based on just clicking a button and you can install that.
So cool.
Yeah, I've gone through the process and it's very smooth. Very, very well done. I mean, it's on behalf of the community, we thank you guys for sharing that with everyone, because if you're out there and you want to try, you should really try it and walk through how it was done. It's great.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with any Department of Energy projects as well. We try to make these tools and everything that we do, research that we do, open to the community.
We appreciate it. You gave us a really great idea, a great head start in doing some of our substation work. So it's been great.
Shri, you're moving into a new role. So you're moving past PNNL. I'm sure your time was extraordinary there, but you're moving into a whole new position, as far as I understand, at ERCOT. Tell us a little bit about what you're stepping into, what your past experiences what they bring to your new position, and what you feel like you're going to be able to do for ERCOT.
Yeah, so I've just joined ERCOT a couple of weeks back, and I'm working in a team called Grid Transformation. And what grid? Before I talk about Grid Transformation team, ERCOT, it's look. I mean, when before joining ERCOT, one of the things that I came to know about ERCOT is, they're looking now for forward-looking solutions of how the market is going to evolve, how we can, or basically how the grid is going to evolve, and they want to be proactive when it comes to the solutions, when it comes to the data, when it comes to the processes. And so as a part of that, one of the core values of ERCOT right now is innovation. And thanks to our CEO Pablo, our executive team, JP, Venkat, all of them really strive to have innovation as one of our core values. And in driving innovation, they also had a couple of innovation summits. There have been two day-long innovation summits wherein different folks from the industry came in and talked about what it means by innovation, grid transformation, and so on. And they developed this team called Grid Transformation, which is basically you can call it the research wing of ERCOT, which is trying to look at these forward-looking solutions and trying to come up with processes, tools, and so on, and trying to see what will it require for ERCOT to be ready and proactive when these different technologies come in. Be it large load integration, be it grid forming inverters, be it AI, and so on. So I'm part of that as a principal for AI and optimization. And so in this role, I'm kind of one of the people who's going to be looking at the different AI processes that we have, as well as how can we best leverage AI to increase productivity, infuse AI in the different applications that we have, not only working internally, but working with external partners, external vendors, looking at, what the community is doing, and so on. So coming from PNNL, working on ChatGrid, working on, some machine learning work before having that power grid background, I was definitely working and interested in AI. And then when this opportunity came in, I thought it was a good transition, because then I can now make whatever the research I had done, whatever the training I've done to to actually have it operational in ERCOT and in the industry itself, and try to see how take that research and try to make that operational, and trying to figure out how we can use AI to support the different applications and processes. So yeah.
Yeah, exciting. That's awesome. And I saw somewhere on LinkedIn you posted something about the Austin music scene.
Oh, love it. Yeah. I was at the PS General meeting couple of weeks, no, not couple of weeks, last month, and there is this amazing jazz bar called Elephant Room. You should, it's on 4th Street or 3rd Street.
In
It was,
Austin.
yeah, it's
Nice.
very, very good. I mean, I'm looking forward to the team as well. And then coming back to the grid transformation, we are going to be launching a web page pretty soon. I don't know whether it's out this week or might be out by next week, wherein you can have more information about what the grid transformation team is about, what are our initiatives. It has some white papers, and then basically talking about if there are external entities who want to collaborate with us, what that process looks like, and so on.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we'll be sure to check that out. That's awesome. And we'll share these links, right, Corey? We'll get some links up for the
Absolutely.
GitHub and everything, the YouTube. Yeah, we'll get them all on the episode when we publish. So
Yeah, we'll organize everything about ChatGrid.
yeah,
We'll definitely get some information about IEEE PES with regards
yeah.
to the new LLM group that you mentioned earlier,
Mm,
and even we can share the ERCOT website that you just mentioned once it comes live, because that's all great information, and I know
mm.
certainly stuff I'm interested in. I'm sure our listeners are interested in. So really appreciate you sharing all that with us, and we'll definitely get that to a position and get that out there in the open.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, and just loving the conversation. Trevor, I wanted to just ask you about the work that you've been doing with AutoCAD, and how's that going, and where are you at with that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's going great. We got a couple of projects on the go where we've tried, as you said, right? So the early work was good, and then when you push it to that last 20%, to get it fully accurate, we had a lot of adjustments to do. So the reinforcement learning, we really stuck to kind of the mapping tools. So giving instead of creating all these different user interfaces, we really stuck it to the map. So having an Esri map with the data
Right.
and the lines, right? So that was allowing us to like put different sites down, try to analyze the two different sites against it. But we didn't have to have so much chatting. It was more
Hmm.
taking that geo data and pushing it into the LLM and the AI.
Okay.
And we did end up with an agentic AI service. And now we
Okay.
have multiple. Yeah, we couldn't find any way to really get it accurate. As you said, when the questions are so broad,
Right.
it's not possible for it to even understand what tools to call, right? It just gets confused. So it's like the magic number seems to be like 3 or 4 tools per agent that it
Okay.
could decipher which way it should call and when does it call a certain function. Yeah, so like it's much better. Yeah, same way you said, just break it down, 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 down till you get a very
Yeah.
finite thing that the agent has to do, and then it's very
Right.
effective. It does a great
Yeah.
job. But yeah, but it's exciting. I'd be happy to send you some stuff from where we're at. We got the dynamic line rating is really cool. That's brand new with a company in the UK, SSEN in Scotland that we're working with. There's some fun stuff, and there's a lot of interest in the entire industry, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure out a way to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have you on the, as a speaker on the foundational models task force webinar. Maybe we can chat separately about that. But yeah, would
Sure.
love, our members would love to learn from you.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to share what we're doing and where we're going, just the same way you did, sharing with us to get it all started. So yeah, I'd be happy to come by and share where we're at, and even if I could share what not to do, it's still helpful.
I think that, sharing what not to do is the most important thing because, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Yeah, let's do
I think
that.
there's a perfect storm of development that's brewing in the background of this conversation. We've got grid level evaluation with AI. We've got substation and switchyard design layout with AI. There's a perfect merger, I think, in the mix here. So, how cool would it be if you could ask an AI like, "Hey, where should I put a substation? Where's the most densely populated 345 kV lines?" And oh, okay, well now that that's there, where can I drop the substation? Do me a favor, lay that substation out. Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always excited and fascinated by the different usages. I remember at our panel session, there was one speaker who who showed who basically had this image of a transformer nameplate, and he put it in the LLM, and the LLM was able to extract the parameters. Then it was able to, I think it was able to decide what parameters to put in the model in that simulation software. And I thought that was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. See, all those things, we all just, if everybody kept sharing all those ideas and concepts, little proof of concepts that we do, it would just accelerate everything so much faster, right? And I'm
100%.
happy to see more and more of it. And Corey and I are part of the substation design industry consortium. So there's like, I think we had 2,800 members that all share just for substations though. So it's,
Yeah.
very substation focused, but they're all, they share ideas. They share what not to do. We tried a project in 3D CAD and here's what happened. And, it's helpful. If we could
Yeah.
just learn by even the mistakes, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Trevor, maybe we
Awesome.
just spin up like a digital design repository here for all these clever ideas that you're mentioning that Shrirang's
Yeah.
mentioning. Who knows?
True.
Maybe that'll be the glue that finally gets all these clever ideas and concepts into one place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate it, Shrirang. It was really great talking to you in person, not just LinkedIn posts and text. So it was really great having you on.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me. I had great time talking with both of you. So thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries.
and I would say open invitation anytime. If at any point you want to come back on the show and talk something unique that you have worked on, maybe on your personal time or maybe at ERCOT as you move into your new role, you are always welcome back here. We would love to talk more about this at any time. So really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Yep, we'll keep that in mind. Thanks.
Even if you come back, give us more hints of where to go on the music scene in Austin. We're still good with that.
I need to explore that more. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Power Up Podcast. Thanks for tuning in and powering through the future of energy and utility design with us.
If you liked what you heard, be sure to follow us or subscribe. And don't forget to leave a review. It really helps other listeners find the show.
You can also connect with us on LinkedIn or wherever you find your podcasts and learn about more episodes, resources, notes, and more.
Got a topic you want us to tackle or a guest we should bring on? Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay curious.
Stay connected. Keep powering on.